My goal is at the end of my life to be able to look back in my life and go, that was an amazing life. And for me to be able to say that, I need to first define my purpose in life. I have to have my purpose define my priorities in life, meaning who and what's important. And then I need the ability to stay focused on those priorities. When I can be focused on those priorities, be present in those priorities, the byproduct of that is I live a rewarding life. I don't want to get to the end of my life, Brian, and look back and go like, I should have done that. I wish I did this. I wish I did that, which is most people. I don't want that. I know I only have one shot. I don't get a second chance.
The reality is probably most people are just partially present throughout their day. So that means they're not concentrating on their workout, their family, their work, their purpose, the sunshine. And so you kind of bump around in this kind of agitated, mediocre existence. That's what I guess you're trying to prevent people from living in.
We all think we're going to live forever, so we're willing to waste time with sitting down with people who are constantly on their phone, constantly being distracted. I don't look at it that way. I wake up every morning and go, my clock is ticking. Like, simplify your life. Instead of having 100 friends, maybe have 10. Instead of watching 20 shows, watch one. Instead of reading 30 books, read one book. People talk about, we're living in such a fast-paced world. We're not. We're just doing too much. I think fast is not the right word. It's not about slowing down. People always say, we need to slow down. No, we don't need to slow down. We need to simplify. Do less so you can spend more time with the people and things that matter to you.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs. Sharing our vulnerability. Overcoming our fears. Transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go? This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is... This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Dandapani, the Hindu priest, speaker, and entrepreneur. After graduating from university with a degree in electrical engineering, you left it all behind to become a monk under the guidance of one of Hinduism's foremost spiritual leaders. For 10 years, you lived a life of personal discipline and daily training at a monastery in Hawaii. Today, you work with some of the most successful entrepreneurs and athletes in the world, helping them understand and leverage their minds by empowering them with the teachings that have been used by Hindu monks for thousands of years. Your new book, The Power of Unwavering Focus, explores how worry and anxiety are making countless people across the planet sick and preventing them from achieving true freedom and happiness. You believe that by mastering the art of concentration, everybody is capable of living the life they've always dreamed of, free from mindless distractions and unnecessary stress. Dandapani, welcome back to London Real.
Thank you so much, Brian. It's an honor to be back and looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, me too. You know, you were originally here back in 2016. Then you came back in 2019. You spoke at our massive summit event here in London. And I just checked, you know, our conversations have been watched like 30, 40 million times. Seriously.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like our episodes, and people took pieces of our episodes and then made more videos out of them. And I just took a look at them on YouTube. It's like 3 million, 5 million, 11 million, 20 million. There's something that happens when we get together or when you start talking.
I love it.
That really resonates with people. And so, yeah.
I think you do an amazing job of facilitating a great conversation.
Good. Well, we're going to have another one today. And I guess I wanted to kick off and maybe ask you this kind of self-reflection question. Why do you think, Dandapani, that your message or your delivery or your energy or your experience resonates so much with so many people? Because it clearly does.
I would say a couple of things. One is that it comes from a place of selfless service. You know, when I lived as a monk for 10 years, one of the vows we took, you know, the ways of life that we live was selfless service with no intention for personal reward. So my goal when I put these teachings out there or share what my guru shared with me is the idea is how can I help somebody? So I have no intent of gaining anything from it. Obviously, yes, I sell courses, I make money, I need the money to run everything that I do, but the intent is always there to help others. So, and that's the first thing. And then the second thing is to make it as simple and clear and understandable as possible for everyone. So I don't try to impress people with things that sounds impressive, but people listen to it and go like, wow, that sounds amazing, but I have no idea what to do with this. So I try and keep it really simple so people can understand and then implement in a sustainable way. And I think those two things make it very appealing to people. And it's two of the feedbacks that I get quite often as well.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say that there's something about the energy you bring to the knowledge that you impart that has that kind of selfless service. This is someone who's just trying to give the world the lessons you learned through your life and having this incredible experience as a monk, which we'll talk about. But also it doesn't seem to have an agenda. And you're not trying to be some guru. You're just trying to tell people how it is for you. And I remember at the event at our summit in London, someone asked you from the audience, they reached their hand and they said, how do you feel about money? And you're like, I love money. Money is great. It allows me to do all these things. And everybody in the audience was almost shocked because they expected you to say something different, but you were totally congruent with how you believe. And people find that, I think, really refreshing about you, that you can be real and a monk, but also be practical. It's a fascinating combination. I don't know if you remember that, but
I do. I remember that very clearly. Yeah. And I also shared, when he asked that question, one of my mentors had shared with me that profit is for the purpose of impact. And I think, the more money I make, the more financial resources I have to create impact in the world, whether in people's lives or in the lives of in environmental impact. So for me, and I think people's relationship with money is very skewed. And a lot of times with spirituality, people think that if you're spiritual, you shouldn't be pursuing money or material gains. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with money. I mean, it's how you use it, right? If I use it to buy drugs or traffic humans, then yeah, not so great. But if I use it to do good, then why not make as much money as you want?
Yeah,
as you can.
I agree. I mean, we have an academy we've had since 2015, and I teach lots of aspects about business and finance. And I'm telling you, Dandapani, one of the biggest problems my students have is they have a dysfunctional relationship with money, and they feel like money is bad or dirty. And so many of my students, because they would never allow themselves to create a profit, they found themselves constantly struggling to make an impact in their business, struggling with their family. And when I kind of gave them permission to make a profit, they're like, oh, wow, now I can take care of my family and I can help thousands of more people. Wow, actually, I can kind of get over this. And like you said, some people, like if they're in the meditation space or the movement space or the spiritual space, it feels to be not congruent to also be okay with money. But I think both have to go together if you want to make an impact.
Yeah, and that's this old saying, money is the root of all evil. And it's just a ridiculous saying, I mean, everything good that's being done in the world today, whether it's environmental things or helping people or feeding people or orphanages, is run by money. And if you didn't have money, you couldn't run all of those organizations and all those impact work. So you need money, and there's nothing wrong with having the intent to make money.
Yeah, as long as you can kind of always try to clarify that relationship with money, for sure, of not having it and then having it as well. I think we found your second book as well. It's going to be The Power of a Relationship with Money. But right now, I want to talk about, right? I'm telling you, there's something there. Yeah. We could co-write it together, but we'll talk afterwards.
Let's do it.
This book, The Power of Unwavering Focus, it's incredible. It's fascinating. And again, it's very Dandapani, as in you put real world, actionable, simple ideas and techniques that you mastered in the monastery over 10 years into people's hands where they can take action with it. But I wanted to ask you, before we get into it, why write this book now? Why now? Is it a state that the world is in? Is it that you've kind of decided it's time to put these ideas together? But I'm curious, why now?
I never really wanted to write a book, and people often say to me, if you write a book and it gets published, then you'll be an expert in the field. And I never look at myself as an expert. And I know publishers will refer to me as an expert so they can sell more books, but I look at myself as a student. I'm always learning about the mind. I can always learn to focus better. So a few years ago, I created online courses because I felt that that could reach a lot more people than books. I can change it. It's digital, I can always modify and grow it. And, my wife and a few close friends, they really encouraged me to write a book. And hence I just put it in a book. And, the whole process of writing the book took me about 3 or 4 years. And I think the whole exercise helped me clarify everything very clearly. I wrote it 3 times. I wrote it once, then rewrote the whole thing again, and then rewrote the whole thing again. So this is, even though it's the first edition, it's actually the third edition of writing this, which is great. I think the whole exercise has helped me clarify my thoughts and put it. My question when I was writing the book is like, how is this going to help somebody? And that was always my mission of the purpose, right? Someone should be able to pick it up and be able to use the tools in it in a very simple way to change their lives. And if it fulfills that, then I fulfill the goal of writing the book.
Yeah, I started writing a book, I think, about 2 years ago. And again, it's a much more arduous process than anyone realizes. I think when Tim Ferriss was here in the studio, he said it's the loneliest thing you can do is write a book. And again, in this world where there's a million books published every year, right? Your book has to cut through probably in the first 5 pages for anyone to pay attention to it. And then it's got to be super value add for that even to change someone's life. And you know that when you're writing it, right? So you're probably thinking, man, this has to be good. It has to grab people. It's got to be communicated well, and it's got to be effective. So I'm guessing that was on your mind when you constructed all of this.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then the intent, right? The intent of really, how can I serve the reader? How can the reader benefit from this? And that was just really the primary thing I held in my mind throughout the whole process. And that's why after writing the first time, I went like, it's not good enough. And I wrote it again, and then I wrote it a third time. And obviously it can be improved on, but holding that intent of this has to serve the purpose. If not, I just write a Harry Potter or some fiction book that people can just read and enjoy. But the goal of this book is not for that. The goal is for people to change their lives with the tools within it.
Yeah, good for you, man. I'm so glad you did. I want to jump into some parts of this book and some of the ideas, but I remember one of the big things I remember from our conversations over the years is you talking about concentration, Dandapani. I remember you talking about even when you were sweeping one of the huts in Hawaii, your guru had said, concentrate on what you're doing, concentrate on the sweeping, concentrate on the task at hand. And I remember you were the first person to ever talk about that on my show before or since, about concentrating on whatever you're doing, even if it might be a quote unquote mundane task. You were all about that concentration, and that seems to go throughout this book. And I was wondering if you could talk about that, because most people would say, why should I concentrate on brushing my teeth? Or why should I concentrate on running on the treadmill? This is just something I have to do in order to do the things in my life that matter. But you don't really look at it that way, do you?
No, I don't. And at the end of the day, the first thing we need to do is really define what's the impetus for learning to focus. And for me, the greatest impetus for learning to focus is that we only have one life. Even though I'm a Hindu and I believe in reincarnation, I know in this life I'm Dandapani, who knows what I'm going to be in my next life. And if I have one life and I know that my life is finite, not short, meaning that there's a clear definitive end to it, then how do I want to live that life? My goal is at the end of my life to be able to look back in my life and go, that was an amazing life. And for me to be able to say that, I need to first define my purpose in life. I have to have my purpose define my priorities in life, meaning who and what's important. And then I need the ability to stay focused on those priorities. When I can be focused on those priorities, be present in those priorities, the byproduct of that is I live a rewarding life. Now that's my impetus for leading a focused life. I don't want to get to the end of my life, Brian, and look back and go like, I should have done that. I wish I did this. I wish I did that, which is most people. I don't want that. I know I only have one shot. I don't get a second chance. So the ability to define my priorities and purpose and the ability to focus allows me then to know that I lived an amazing life. Now, the ritual of practicing focus throughout the day is one way to bring the practice of focus into your whole life, to make it a routine, a ritual, so that you become good at it, right? And I gave an example, I think, on your show previously of take Usain Bolt, the sprinter, right? I don't know much about him, but fastest man on earth, still holds the record for 100 meters. I'm assuming his whole day when he was competing was a ritual. Like, he drank water, he exercised, did weight training, running, sprinting, whatever it is, all for 9.56 or 9.58 seconds. His whole day supported that. So I look at it the same way. If I'm spending 2 hours with my daughter every day, what can I do the remaining 22 hours that helps me supports me being focused when I'm with her, so that I can get the most out of the experience with her? And hence, I bring the practice of ritual into brushing the teeth, sweeping the floor, stapling paper, whatever it is I need to do, I bring that practice into it. So when I'm actually with the people I love, doing the things I love, I'm completely present and getting the most out of it.
Okay, and so by focusing and being concentrating on the stapling, the sweeping, the brushing of the teeth, it conditions you to be just constantly focused and concentrating on whatever you do. So then when you're with your daughter, you are like, your brain is almost trained to be 100% with her.
Exactly. If I'm distracted all day long, Brian, and then I go for 20 hours a day or 22 hours a day, and then I spend 2 hours with my daughter, how can I expect to be focused? And if I can't be focused, I can't be present. If I can't be present, I can't enjoy being with her. I can't feel her emotions, her reactions, see how she's behaving, talking to me, listen to what she's saying, right? I want the most out of my time with the people I love and doing the things that I love. In order to do that, I need to be able to focus. Then I can say at the end of the day, wow, today was a full day. I spent time with my wife. I was completely present. Spent time with my daughter. I was on my property in Costa Rica working on stuff. I was completely present. I had a full day. If I get run over by a bus at 10 p.m. at night, I can go like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I lived a full, rewarding day.
Right. And the reality is probably most people are just partially present throughout their day, or thinking about a myriad of things at all times during the day. So the phone is buzzing and beeping. They're anxious or stressed about their money. They're stressed about something that might happen, some news article they read somewhere else. So that means they're not concentrating on their workout, their family, their work, their purpose, the sunshine. And so you kind of bump around in this kind of agitated, mediocre existence. And that's what I guess you're trying to prevent people from living in.
Basically, and then getting to the end of your life and you go, what was that all about? And Brian, we talked in our first show about how the mind works, how there's awareness in the mind, that the mind doesn't move, but awareness is, you could imagine of it as a bright ball of light that travels within the mind. And wherever awareness goes, that area of the mind you become conscious of. So if I'm sitting and talking to you or having dinner with you, or a cup of coffee, a glass of wine, you're chatting with me. If my ball of light is somewhere else thinking about my project in Costa Rica or thinking about some email I need to get back to, I'm physically present with you. Mentally, I'm checked out. And I think a lot of people are that way. You can sit with them. Physically, you're always present because your body can't go away unless you get up and walk away. So physically, I'm with you, but mentally, are you present? And if you're not present, then what's the point of even being there?
Yeah. Dandapani, I get spoiled because so many of my interactions are like this, right? So a lot of times, we're on camera, we're like, I get locked in with someone like you for 90 minutes. And I'll be honest, when I go sometimes meet friends out and, it's at a place that's noisy or they got their phones out, honestly, I usually have people come meet me here because that way we can sit and have a quiet, focused conversation. So I'm a bit spoiled. And in that sense, I can tell when someone's not present, and I would rather not be there with them. I'd rather be alone, actually, than be with someone who's not with me 100%. Does that sound strange to say?
No, I take the same attitude. Look at it this way, right? I would say to you in your audience, if you had 3 hours to live and you knew you only had 3 hours left, and someone asked you for 10 minutes of your time, and you made that decision to give them 10 minutes of their 3 hours, and in that 10 minutes of speaking with them, they were constantly checking their phone or being distracted, would you want to be there? You wouldn't. When you shrink the time, increase the clarity of focus. We all think we're going to live forever, so we're willing to waste time with sitting down with people who are constantly on their phone, constantly being distracted. I don't look at it that way. I wake up every morning and go, my clock is ticking. I don't say it's short, but I know there's a clock somewhere that says Dandapani underneath and it's counting down. I don't know how many hours on that, but I know it's counting down and it's going to hit zero one day. So if I'm going to give you a few minutes of those precious minutes that I have, the very least I expect from you is your undivided attention. That's all I'm asking for. Be present. And if you can't, it's okay. I'm going to go do what I need to do. You go ahead and do what you need to do. But if I'm going to give you what precious few minutes I have in my life, I'm just going to ask for yours as well. Yeah. For your undivided attention. That's not too much to ask.
No, it's not. I have no time for anybody who's on their phone when I'm with them. And I know you have a whole set of thoughts on technology, and we're definitely going to get to that. Yeah. Maybe we start with purpose, because they don't teach us this in school. I don't think so, at least in the Western world, where they sit down and have us define our purpose, which is kind of a shame because it seems like one of the most important things in life. I think you say in the book that happiness is not a purpose, but whereas finding a purpose can bring you happiness. Can you talk a little bit about that concept?
Yeah, so I grew up in Asia and they never taught you finding purpose in school. And, I grew up with parents that always said to me, Mom and Dad only want you to be happy. But happiness is a byproduct of the experiences you have. So if I sit down with one of my best friends and have a glass of wine with them or hang out with them, the byproduct of that is happiness. I spend time with my wife and my daughter, byproduct of that is happiness. I'm working on my project in Costa Rica, byproduct of that is happiness. So how do I craft a lifestyle where the byproduct of that lifestyle results primarily in happiness? Obviously, it can't be 100% happy. Life doesn't work that way. So my first question is, how do I design that lifestyle? In order to design that lifestyle, I need clarity of purpose, because my purpose can define my priorities. My priorities then in turn can define how I structure my lifestyle, which is who I spend time with, what I eat, what I read, what I see, what I listen to, what music I listen to, literally everything. But if you don't have purpose, then you can't define all of it. I mean, look at London Real. You've defined the mission of it, the style of it, the branding of it. It's just so clear. If I go online, I see some guy ripped your video off and is showing it. As soon as I see the background, the quality of it, the filming, I know it's London Real. But because you've defined clearly what it is you want, you're able to then define everything else. What quality video, what backdrop, the quality sound, everything. So life should be the same as well. Define purpose first. Purpose defines priorities. Then focus on those things. The byproduct of that, you live a rewarding life.
And for people to find out that purpose, how do they do that?
Yeah, and the sad thing is we're never taught, right? So ideally, you find someone who can guide you, because it's hard we don't know what we don't know. So I would say there's a couple of ways. If you're spiritually or religiously inclined, your religion can define your purpose. So I'm a Hindu. In Hinduism, we define the purpose as a person's purpose in life as self-realization or enlightenment. Through deep meditation, I go within and I experience divinity inside of me. Now, a Christian in a particular denomination may say the purpose in life is to serve and love Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. A Buddhist might have something else. So if you're spiritually or religiously inclined, you may turn to that to see what your religion defines as your purpose in life. Now, if you're agnostic or atheist, I always say that your core purpose in life should never be dependent on someone or something, because if that someone or something goes away, then you have no purpose. So if you're agnostic or an atheist, you could say, for example, my purpose in life is to be the best version of myself. Now, you could do that and pursue that even if you had 3 days left to live, you were bedridden. You can go within your mind and say, remember 70 years ago, I fought with my uncle and I never resolved that. I'm still carrying that grudge. I should really deal with that right now and not take it into wherever it is I'm going. So that allows you then to keep working on things regardless of who and what's in your life.
Yeah.
But ideally, you find someone who can help you lay out the path to discovering it. But I would say strongly, Brian, that I encourage, that's one of the first things people do in life is figuring out your purpose in life.
Yeah.
Same way I would imagine with London Real, like you want to define what the mission is first. If not, you'd never be as successful as you are now.
Yeah, it's funny how you bring it back to this because we're almost 11 years in, and I didn't
amazing.
know the purpose in the beginning, but I knew the intent, and then later I defined it
Right.
as a purpose. But the intent always was to have these amazing conversations, and then also introduce these fascinating people to the world. And I was always there to be of service to almost to them. So when you sat down with me that first time in 2016 in the studio, it was like everything we do, from the lighting to my questions to the piece of content we produce, is to put your essence into the world so other people can benefit from that. And then every decision around that is based on that purpose. And then it becomes really clear what we do. It's simple. And then we can do it almost with ease because it's defined. And since I'm being of service and I'm doing something I love, everything else falls in place. Isn't that crazy how that works?
Yes. And then, once I always tell people, once you know what you want, you know what you don't want. And you also, who you don't want. Making decisions become, like you say, becomes so simple.
Yeah.
The one thing I want to bring up, Brian, if it's okay with you, about purpose here is that, I see a big problem in today's world, and maybe I'm wrong about it, but, if you ask most teenagers or young people, what do you want in life? Most people have absolutely no idea. And the common thing that's being said to them is that you don't need to have it all figured out so early in life. I disagree. I feel that we should teach our children how to find their purpose as early as possible so that you can spend the rest of your life living in alignment with your purpose. Because like you said, everything then becomes easy, making decisions become easy, and everything that you do is so rewarding and joyous, as opposed to spending decades trying to find what it is you want, because life is apparently all about the journey and not the destination. I disagree. I say define the destination, then it's about the journey, because now your journey is in alignment with the destination. And Lewis Carroll has that beautiful saying, if you don't know what you want, if you don't know where you're going, then any road will get you there. And I feel that's how most people live our life. And we say to teenagers, we say to young adults all the time, it's okay. You don't need to figure out what you want in life. Just go out there, experience things, and discover. The more confused you are, the more you repeat that in your mind, the more pattern of confusion builds up, and it doesn't get resolved. Yeah. It's not that confusion leads to clarity. Figure out what it is you want early, and parents should take the responsibility of helping the children define their purpose in life. What are they passionate about? What do they love? And help them get into that narrow and deep lane of what drives them every day, wakes them up every day, and gets them into that place where things just happen with ease. There's so much clarity every day, and there's so much reward every day. Wouldn't that be a better life to lead than a life of searching? Yeah. No one likes looking for anything. That's why there's Google.
No, I agree with that. And I guess my next question is, do we all know deep down inside what we should do? Is it really just about connecting with that essence of ourself through meditation or through whatever it is? Because some people say, I don't know. And it's like, you probably do know. Maybe you're just too distracted by all these things around to connect with that. But do you think everyone knows deep down inside what they want to do or need to do?
I completely agree with your statement that I think everyone knows and they're too distracted. And the other thing is they don't spend enough time. And I think if someone has the ability to focus and be self-reflective long enough, they would get to see within them what it is they're passionate about. We are so externally focused. Our heads are buried in phones all day long, looking at other people's lives, hearing other people's thoughts and opinions, that when do we ever spend time in self-reflection? This is our third interview, and we've probably clocked maybe 3 hours of talking, 4 hours of talking. And, we've chatted in your office and stuff. The more time we spend with each other, the more we get to know each other. People don't spend any time with themselves, Brian. So how would they know what they want or what they need, let alone their purpose?
Yeah, you're totally right. You're totally right. It's all in there if you would just spend some time with yourself, which most people find very uncomfortable, which is why the phone comes out whenever you're alone for 1 minute, right?
You hardly see anyone standing at the subway or the bus station not looking at their phone, Because like you said, to look within means you have to face everything that's nice about you and everything that's not nice about you. And the not nice parts are very uncomfortable.
Yeah. And yet those will give you the direction you need if you can face them, right?
Exactly. And the best perspective to take with that, Brian, is I look at myself as a building under construction. There are nails, there are rebar lying around, broken cinder blocks. I'm still a work in progress. So I'm okay. When I look inside of me and I see the mess, I go, it's fine. I'm working on it. The building's not done yet.
Yeah.
So that allows me then to have self-empathy, self-compassion, and patience with myself as I continue the construction of me to be the next better version of myself. But if you don't take that approach, then you don't have empathy and compassion of yourself. And then looking at yourself becomes very uncomfortable and very painful.
Yeah. You mentioned kids, and I have kids, and my daughter's 18, my boys are 5 and 6 now, and now they have access to not only the internet, but the mobile phone 24/7 and the Instagram feed. Yeah. And what that seems to tell, my old equivalent of that was MTV, like in our day, back in the day, where you would look at it. But when you look at it, what really seems to be rewarded on those feeds are money and bling and the this and the that. And how do you stop our kids and even our adults from getting hijacked by the wrong message of what's important? And I went down this path for many years of my life of thinking that money would make me happy. That's all I needed was these things. And then it didn't. And then I had to find a way to serve and do other things, which is why I'm doing this right now. But how do you stop people from getting hijacked onto the wrong value system?
I would say start with service, because that's where monks start in their training. And that's why selfless service is such a big thing within monastic communities, not even within Hindu monks, but Buddhist monks or Christian monks. Because when you think about service, you're thinking about someone else and not yourself, And social media gets you always to think about yourself. How many likes can I get? How can I portray myself? How do I look? Do I sound okay? Do I look okay? It's about me, and let's think about others. So one thing I try to slowly do with my daughter, she's only almost 4 now, is to get her to start thinking about other people. Do you want to share your toy with this person? Do you want to give? You have so many toys. Would you like to give? Let's give away one of these toys. Would you like to share your food? And she's getting that. So start thinking about the people around you. And that will start to allow us to shift our focus with all the things that's being thrown at us in social media. And you go like, well, none of these things is about serving others. So let me shift my focus now to things that are about serving others. And in monastic training, that's where we start. Selfless service.
Yeah, I love that. All right, let's talk about a couple more points in the book, because you go pretty heavy on these 4 favorite things, which are worry, fear, anxiety, and stress. And it's something that anybody listening to us right now has probably experienced hours of it during the day. Again, back to the mobile phone, and we'll get to your thoughts on technology, is that they're constantly beeping and buzzing and giving us clickbait to click on to get us stressed about events all around the world that probably have nothing to do with us. How do you get people to think about these concepts, and how do you get your head around these concepts?
So for me, again, it goes back to the first part, our first interview, and also the first part of the book, where we talk about awareness in the mind and how we're not the mind, rather we're pure awareness moving through different areas of the mind. So to look at fear, to understand fear, we need to understand time. In a simplified view of time, we have the past, the present, and the future. You can't fear or worry anything in the past. It's already happened. There's nothing you can do about it. But you can worry about the consequences that may occur in the future. But fear is actually, and worry is actually future-based. So for example, I gave a story in the book where my guru was 7 years old in 1934, and he was coming home in his family car in Lake Tahoe, and it was snowing really heavily. And he was really worried he was going to miss his favorite radio program. And he saw his awareness traveling into the future in his mind, creating a situation in his mind where the car got stuck in the snow and his father couldn't get it out and they missed their radio program. Then his awareness came back to the present and started worrying about this experience he conjured up in his mind. And that essentially is what fear and worry is. If you look at your life and you think about everything, you make a list of all the things you actually fear about and worry, you'll see they're all future-based, and you've conjured them in your head. In the eternity of the moment, as my guru says, I'm all right now. You're totally fine right now. All your fears and worries is future based. He's going to leave me. I think she doesn't like me. I think she's going to go with that guy instead of with me. I think my business is going to fail. It's all future based. Once you can control awareness in the mind, you can overcome fear and worry. But you need to understand the first part of awareness in the mind.
So next time you're feeling over anxious, scared, fear, and worry, you should, first of all, be aware of that, then realize that it's an awareness issue, realize that's all future-based, and that it's probably overdone. Now, at one point, can you take that to the extreme? Or can you? Or then you don't worry about anything. Is that possible?
You can. So it's not like I don't worry about anything. So, I have this big project here in Costa Rica, and my awareness can go into the future and get concerned about something. Then what I do is I create a situation in the future that may be problematic. I bring my awareness back to the present, and then I go, how can I solve this? And that's the difference, right? So a lot of people allow the awareness to go into the future, create a problem, come back, and repeatedly worry about that problem located in the mind. I let my awareness go into the future, create a problem, come back, and now I solve it. So for example, I'm creating a restaurant. I let my awareness go into the future. I see 6 months from now on a Friday night, it's completely busy. Now I create a problem in the kitchen where there's a fire in the kitchen. And I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Busy Friday night. Awareness comes back to the problem, and I go, okay, how am I going to solve this? Well, I need sprinkler system. I need fire extinguisher, 2 exits over here. Now I don't have to worry because now I created a solution for that problem. And that's the difference between worry and allowing awareness to repetitively go to the future into a problem and come back. That's worry and fear. Or creating a problem in the future, let awareness go there, identify that that's a potential problem, come back and create solutions for that. Okay. That's very different. That's not fear and worry.
Do you think some people are addicted to fear and worry, and there are dealers out there?
Absolutely.
Maybe they're called news sites. There are dealers in fear and worry, and people are addicted to it, right? Which is a strange phenomenon to be addicted to something that's, well, bad for you. I guess that is an addiction. But yeah, maybe speak on that because it's a commodity these days, isn't it?
Yes, and if you broke the mind down into 3 parts, there's the intuitive part, which is the superconscious area of the mind. There's the subconscious, which is the intellectual area of the mind. And then there's the conscious mind, which is the instinctive area of the mind. And in the instinctive area of the mind, this is based on Hindu philosophy, in the instinctive area of the mind, the highest state of consciousness for the animal nature is fear. If you can keep your ball of light in the fear area of the mind, you have control over the animal. I don't know if you've ever been next to an elephant. It's huge, it's strong, it's tall. This is a strong beast. But I've traveled in Asia so much, and you have this scrawny little man sitting on the elephant that's ruling the elephant. You go like, how's that possible? Because he's put the fear of God in the elephant. He's beat it, he's hit it, he's stabbed it. The elephant's so afraid of this scrawny little man sitting on it that now this instinctive animal will just do whatever the scrawny man sitting on it tells it to do. So I feel the fear dealers that you talk about, the news sites, keep society in this instinctive area of this animal nature of the mind state of fear, because it's so much easier now to control the animal when they're afraid of you. As soon as they move from the animal nature to the intellectual nature, where they start reasoning and processing and thinking for themselves, then they go, right, hang on a second. I don't quite buy what you're trying to tell me. Now you have no control over them. Same thing religious organizations do too, Brian. I've been in the religious business for a long time. I sat on the other side of the altar more than I've sat on your side of the altar. And I've seen religious people, heads of churches and temples and synagogues, and do the same thing. Keep the congregation in the fear area of the mind so you can get them to do whatever you want. God will strike you down, Brian. I'm telling you that. So you must support my organization. You need to put money in the box. You need to do this. We need to do that. And then you control your congregation. It's been happening for hundreds of years.
Right. So if you're imparting fear or being a subject of fear, you're always going to be in that kind of low energy state or in that animal brain. And in a weird way, that's a place also where you don't have to think about your own problems and shortcomings too. So in some ways, it's nice to go there because all you can do is be scared or angry. But if you find yourself there, you're probably not going to ever go above that.
No, and you brought up a great point, Brian, because the animal, all it wants to do is know there's food being served at a certain time, like the dog knows, it's time to eat. And then I have a place to sleep at night. And as long as I'm confident and safe and I have food and I have bed to sleep, then I'm good. And you don't have to think about all the other problems. And that's the nature of the animal nature of the mind. Keep people there, you can control them. As soon as you start to educate them and they start to think for themselves, that's when the problem begins.
Right. And so if you catch your brain going to these spaces, you need to try to pull it back and just say, okay, there I go into my worry, my anxiety, my stress, my fear. I need to pull back and realize that this is just an awareness issue, find out where I can solve it, and then get back to being present with myself, concentrating on what's happening now, and try to get kind of back on track. Is that some of the lessons here?
Yeah, for sure. And for fear and worry, that's the solution, right? If awareness goes into the future, starts indulging in potential problems, bring it back to the present, focus on what you're doing, or create a solution for that problem that you've just conjured up in your mind. Anxiety and stress is different. Anxiety and stress comes when you allow your awareness to jump from one project to another, to another, to another, to another in an unresolved way. You're like, oh my God, I have to send a check for project A. 2 minutes later, you go, I forgot to sign the contract for project B. A minute later, you go, like, I never sent the Zoom meeting link for project C. And as awareness jumps from all your task list of the things you need to do throughout the day, anxiety starts to build in you, and prolonged states of anxiety leads to stress. Bring awareness back to the present. Tell yourself thinking about something doesn't actually get it done. Make a list, focus on one thing at a time, get it done, and go through your list. But as soon as you allow awareness to jump through that list, anxiety builds. And one simple exercise everyone can do is make a list of 10 or 15 things that you need to do today and start shifting your awareness between them and see how quickly you start to feel anxiety. It's a simple way to conjure up anxiety in your life and to see what causes anxiety. And once you realize how anxiety is created, then you know what to do, not to create it.
Right. Yeah. Got it. That's the way to go back to the concentration. One thing at a time, fully present, fully concentrated. Yeah. The opposite of that is thinking about everything, and then you become anxious, and then, yeah.
You do, right? I mean, look how many things you have going on, right? You have interviews, you've got your classes, you got your academy, you got your online stuff going. If you started to go through the list of all those things, plus your family things, plus your personal things, you'd start to go like, oh my God,
Yeah.
But if you just focus on one thing at a time, then it doesn't build anxiety. And then once you decide I'm done with A, then shift your awareness to B. Work on B for however long you want, whether it's 2 minutes or 10 minutes, and then shift to C. Just take that approach.
Yeah. When I'm having a good day, I'm doing that. So I woke up this morning, I get my meditation done, I have my cold shower, I saw my son Caden, I goofed around with him, was totally there with him, got dressed, said my affirmations, I'm off to work, working on fixed projects. I just went, did some breakdancing, preparing for you. Now I'm here with you. When I get done, I'm gonna have another meeting, I'm gonna go home and see these boys again. And if I'm concentrating and present with each one of those tasks, then when I get done at the end of the day, I'm like, wow, that was an amazing day. I did all these really cool things. I feel like I was there and present. I didn't kind of half do anything. Those are actually my best days. Just like you say in the book, when I'm actually focused and concentrating on those things, even if it seems mundane, at least I'm there with that piece. And then it's not mundane, right?
No, it never becomes mundane. And that's the beautiful thing that my guru, Gurudeva, taught me, is that.
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.